All right, guys, if you love CONMEBOL, then this is the podcast for you. We have assembled the Avengers here to break down the biggest storylines to watch in 2025. Now, by the end of the year, we are all going to know which South American teams are going to the next Mundial, but that's not all you should be paying attention to. So, we're going to tell you the other mini narratives and storylines to watch. If you like CONMEBOL, make sure you hit subscribe, drop a like on the video, and lastly, make sure you check out our guests here today on social media. I will put the links to their channels and profiles down below in the description. I'm going to start us off here. Storyline number one. And I really want to know what you guys think because I'm not even sure I have an answer to this question. Which player finishes CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying as the MVP?
Oof. As the
Who do you guys have
MVP,
right now? As the MVP. Let's go one by one. Who would you guys say right now? I have a couple nominees, but I want to hear you guys first.
Do you want me to give a fun answer, or do you want me to give what's probably going to happen?
Give me both.
Okay. What's probably going to happen? Messi's got 6 goals. He's got the most goals in qualifying, and he's only played how many games? He hasn't played the full fish. I think he has 7 games.
9. Okay,
9?
maybe 7. Okay.
Right around there. Less than 10 games, 7 goals. It's probably going to be Messi again. And I know that's not exciting, especially coming from the Argentine on the channel. It's not. That's not great.
Expected.
You know, it's expected, right? And you might even argue that it's warranted. But I mean, frankly, I wish I could say somebody else.
So who's the fun answer?
I feel like I got to think about that more.
Okay, we'll circle back. Martin, who do you think's the MVP right now?
no, when you asked that, I was definitely thinking in Argentine because they're gonna probably finish first. It's a pretty big drop off, and teams like Uruguay, Colombia, Ecuador, who are kind of close, I still they're gonna be a few points off from Argentina at the end of the cycle. So Messi with 6 goals, it's looking like he's gonna be the MVP for me.
He would be your selection. Like, we get contacted by CONMEBOL. They say, hey, all you guys have 1 vote for the MVP. You're saying that the 4 of us are going to cast Lionel Messi as the MVP. That's what you would do, Martin?
Yeah, because if it's closed right now, the cycle, he would be the MVP. They're in first. He has 6 goals. So I think they
Even though
keep
he's
up
missed
the
games?
same rhythm. He's missed games, but like I'm trying to think, an Uruguay player. I don't know if he's in the MVP conversation. A Colombian, Ecuador, maybe the defenders, but it's not like we're first in the league or anything. So I would say
Okay.
Messi.
Okay, Roberto, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, there's so many great players out there that you could really pick out, but I feel like when you look at, again, like you said, even though Messi hasn't played that much, when you look at the impact that he's made in those games, I think you have to give credit when it's due. And so I think, yeah, he is top goal scorer for a reason. And I think, typically when you have those type of performances, and even you look at the players that are below him, so you have a Darwin Nunez, a Rafinha, Luis Diaz, Antonio Sanabria from Paraguay. Did they really stand out to you as an MVP for the entire campaign? I don't think so. So that's where, as boring as that might sound, and it's crazy to say that when it's Messi, but I feel like there is no obvious other one besides him, honestly, at this point.
Okay. All right.
I think that the one scenario in which it's not him, I think you got to look at Darwin, because Darwin also has a few assists. I think Messi's got 6 goals, 3 assists. Darwin has 5 and 2. So I think if Darwin bags a couple more goals before the cycle's out and Uruguay does finish second, I think you could make an argument. But I mean, a lot of people will look at Messi playing less games as a positive, as like wow, he did all of this in this amount of time. I think Uruguay finishing second probably has a lot more to do with Darwin. Without Darwin, I don't think they are where they are. So I don't know. I think there's an argument, but it's not an exciting answer. I think it's got to be Messi.
Okay. So I'll be the bad guy once again towards the Argentines, and I'll say I don't think Messi has a good argument, actually. He's missed games. He's got 9 GA total, right, through the qualification cycle. 5 of those came in 1 game at home against Bolivia. So if you take those away, he's down to 4 GA. Another one was an assist against Peru at home. You take that away, he's down to what, 3 now? I don't know. Like for me, he hasn't been impactful enough. I thought against Venezuela, he was quite poor. If I had to give it to an Argentine right now, the interesting thing about Argentina as a team is they play as such a good unit. It's very difficult in this iteration to be like, oh, like Julian's carrying, or like, oh my gosh, look at Nahuel out right. He's just been a beast. For me, if I had to nominate an Argentine,
McAllister.
I don't know.
Lautaro?
Maybe McAllister. I was thinking maybe Kuti or Otamendi's got some big goals this cycle. Obviously, game
Otamendi
winner
does
against
have some
Brazil.
big goals, but he's not consistent enough. I think you could make an argument for Emmy. I
Dude,
think
if we're going goalkeeper, I'm going Galindez from Ecuador, bro. He's been insane. But can I give you guys my top 3? These are my 3 nominees.
Yeah.
Messi's I probably have him 5. My top 3, I think the favorite right now for MVP in Jack's world, which is a scary place. James Rodriguez, number 1. I think he's number 1 in the running right now for MVP. You look at his performances for Colombia. He's got the most chances created. He's got twice as much as the second best player. He has 40 chances created. No other player has 20. He's got 41. That's insane. Colombia fallen off a little bit, but that's not his fault. Number 2, I would say Moises Caicedo. I think he's been a beast in every single game. It ain't his fault that Ecuador have very few attacking options. And 3, I think I would probably throw Darwin up there if he gets back to scoring goals. But he's kind of like, I mean, Uruguay overall is kind of.
He needs 2 more goals. He needs 2 more goals.
He needs 2 more minimum, I think, to make a push.
Which he can do.
Quick reaction.
We got 6 games left.
6 games left. I don't know about his suspension and stuff, but
right. But like, I don't know. There's a huge case for more people, and this conversation right here is a good storyline for 2025 because this is still an out and out race. Like if Messi misses 2-3 more games, then his stats are looking I don't know, maybe not as impressive, especially if your boy from Paraguay bags 3 more goals and you jump up a couple spots.
If Sanabria wins MVP,
who
the hell had that?
If Sanabria scores 3 more goals in the remaining 6 games, 0.5 goals a game, all of a sudden Paraguay jump up 2 spots. I don't see that as unrealistic at all, especially not with the way that you guys are playing right now.
Yeah, I think Paraguay gets a top 6 finish in the World Cup and automatically qualifies, and Sanabria bangs at least 2 goals, he's in the conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be a really interesting task, but I think just the evolution, you mentioned what Uruguay have done with that fine start, but also they've been really inconsistent all of 2024 as well. So you have to take that into consideration. And when you value an MVP, you have to value it through the entire process. I mean, Sanabria, again, like we'll use him as an argument. Like the performances that he's had, the minutes that he's played, the goals that he scored, of course, you have to put that into consideration that, it's not his fault that he's not been playing in the games that he didn't. But when he does, he puts up the performances that he does. So, yeah, I don't see why not. He can't be considered if he continues this fine form heading into this year.
Also, Jack, I like the James shout for Colombia because it's true for club the past 2 years, even more, honestly. He just doesn't play or plays very few little, doesn't get along with his teammates, coaches, bouncing between clubs. I think he left Vallecano last week. So, but for Colombia, he turns it on. Like you could just see he's by far the best player on the team, and he's one of the oldest. So that's a good shout. Also, Ecuador has 19 points. Argentina has 25. Ecuador, to start the World Cup cycle, the qualifiers, they were -3. So if you take out those 3 points, we're 3 points close to Argentina. So I can understand the Moises Caicedo shout. He doesn't score or assist a lot, but man, he's one of the best players on the pitch every time.
He has sort of a similar impact that McAllister has at Liverpool, in that it's not you're not going to see like crazy stats from him. I know he's McAllister just bagged 2 assists against Manchester United, just now. And Caicedo will give you games like that, right? But it's the way that they
Yeah, Bolivia.
facilitate the midfield and the impact that they can have there. It's not very tangible. Like you can't see the results on paper, but I mean, if you look at how Ecuador is playing, you're right. You guys should be above Uruguay right now. You should be
Yeah,
number two.
And I don't think just because a team's in first, they should get the MVP. Like this is the
Mm-hmm.
same problem we see in other sports as well. It's like we feel like we got to give it to the one seed in in the Western Conference or something. But it's like, well, if he ain't the best player, he ain't the best player. And like their stats are stats, and then there's like the eye test, and then there's just like overall impact. Again, with Messi, I don't think he's been the best Argentine player in some of the games that he's played in. Whereas I look at Caicedo, I mean, good Lord, you take Caicedo out of Ecuador, nobody can do that. Nobody can fill those shoes. Argentina won at Bolivia away without Messi. Bolivia away. So, again, the impact there, great player. He's still probably top 5 because of the impact. He could bag 7 more assists in the last 6 games and be the runaway, right? And this was a mute point. But I like to give it for the guys who are irreplaceable to their teams. And I don't think Messi is anymore. And that's honestly a compliment to Argentina. But you guys let us know in the comments who's your MVP or who your prediction for MVP is. Roberto, why don't you bring us on to the next storyline to watch here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the big storyline really to watch in this, and I want to be biased here, but hey, why not? After the fine form that they've been in the last 3 months, it's got to be Paraguay and how they really evolved from this really fine start under Gustavo Alfaro. I mean, certainly for my sake and having followed this team for so many years, you always feel a bit pessimistic at time. You think like, okay, when is the shoe going to fall? Like, when is this going to end? And 6 games in, they haven't lost a single game. They get their famous wins against Argentina and Brazil. They snatch points in Bolivia. They snatch points in Ecuador and, of course, in Uruguay. So it's like, when is this going to end? But I think, heading into now 2025, I think that's really it. Like to see how they can continue, how a lot of these players that have really been flourishing in the last year or in the last 5 months or so are able to continue. And obviously they got Chile at home, which they should win that one. They should be in a position, and then they go to Colombia, which again I don't feel as if though Paraguay can go into that game feeling intimidated. I feel like they can get something from there. I'm not going to big prediction as of yet, but I think of the fine form and kind of the confidence that they're in, if they can get something out of Colombia, that's qualification right there. They're in the World Cup. I don't see how they can drop points after that. I don't see how they can't not qualify for the World Cup after that.
I don't know if you've seen our other videos, but we're pretty bullish on Paraguay as a team overall.
I've noticed.
I think Alfaro's probably top 3 coaches in CONMEBOL at the moment. Dude's just a freaking wizard, and Paraguay are scary. So I completely agree. Like, if there's a team you want to avoid the rest of qualification, I would say it is Paraguay. Even Colombia right now, they don't want you guys coming to their house, especially after Ecuador beat them there recently with 10 men. Nah, they don't want the Paraguayan smoke.
It's going to be special for Roberto and all the Paraguayans. I think they're going to do it because they have some games where I'm not saying it's a must win, but they can easily get 3 points or just stack up draws. And I think they could do it. They're going to beat out Venezuela, Bolivia, Peru, Chile, and qualify to the World Cup.
Yeah, I think the curious part is like, where do they finish? I think now getting these kind of results that, I think from a Paraguay perspective, they'll take whatever spot that they want. But I feel like for them, it would be a really good motivation to, finish above in those top 3, top 4. I mean, how big would it be for them to finish above a Brazil? Like, that's something that I can't recall them ever doing in World Cup qualification. And for them to do that, I think sends a message to kind of the rest of the world for the World Cup. It's like, oh my God, like this is a team that they beat Brazil, they beat Argentina, they finished above Brazil. And you're like, okay, this is a team that, like you said, Jack, is very scary and maybe could do something at the World Cup. I'm not going to go further in the future on that, but it's just, you never know, but that's it. But that's the thing. You look at these results and you're like, wait a second, this isn't like, not many teams are able to beat the powerhouses in the same process. So it's like, clearly they need to get some, ojo con Paraguay, as you always say.
Ojo con Paraguay. What game do you think is their most important coming up? Because I think Martin said, you don't want to call some of these games a must win, but I think Chile is a must win. You got to keep yourself informed before you play Colombia,
agree.
Uruguay, and Brazil
I agree.
back to back to back. And then, no, not even. After that, Ecuador. Ecuador at home. This is a tough remaining fixture schedule here. So I'm wondering, like, for all of you guys, which teams do you think that Paraguay will take points from? I think
Chile,
I don't know.
3 points.
They
Chile.
should be Chile. They have a
Chile for
historically
sure.
yeah, they should. Like right now in the Chile that's playing in this position, they should. They should beat them.
I really want that Brazil away game
Oof.
is
gonna be
looking
tough.
like a really tough one, but I think that obviously to finish ahead of them that would be ideal. But that would be
Well,
a really
I
good one.
think the Argentina win in Brazil, the big historical record of them not losing at home. I think that kind of what we saw from Argentina 2 years ago kind of broke that off, and you even see teams like Venezuela, like Uruguay as well, getting points there. I think that's kind of broken I don't want to say the stereotype, but kind of the fear and intimidation. Where like, look, Brazil is as good as they are. They will always be stacked, and they'll always be a tough team to face. But they're not like impossible to get a result from. I'm not saying that they can go and win over there in Brazil, but it wouldn't be that surprising, especially given the way Brazil have been playing so far. So, if they can get a point there, then yeah, that would be more than great for Paraguay to feel a bit more motivated. And yeah, just try to rack up as much points as they want and then get into qualification.
Is it just me, or I don't know how you guys feel about this, but obviously Brazil have not been good. Um, but I think obviously they're gonna still qualify the World Cup. But I think this last year and 3 months, I think they're just gonna go off again, start winning games, get the 3 points. I think that's gonna happen.
Mm.
What do you guys think?
So that was one of my other storylines was does Brazil figure it out in time? And if so, what fixes their current problems? Because I do see a world in which because of course on talent they are grossly underperforming and they've been doing so for a while. So it's not like the potential isn't there, but something is clearly broken. And so I wonder if this reality that you're talking about, Martin, actually happens. What is it? And I kind of feel like Dorival is not the coach if that
Hmm.
happens. I just don't see a way where he is the guy that turns it around. I'm sorry. The Copa America, to me, nail in the coffin. I think he's just a figurehead at this point.
To,
I don't think he's the man.
I
to
think the
me,
main
yeah.
problem was the striker position. I think Gabriel Jesus this season has been turning up, and if he can find some form with Rodrigo, Vinicius, um, Paqueta, and Joelinton, these guys are playing good, getting on form in the Premier League season and their other seasons. But
Well, not
I don't know.
Paquetá,
I,
man.
I just think they will. Like, there's no way they keep having bad form.
My my
That's my argument.
my concern is where does Neymar fit in after this? Like, he's
Yep.
been out for so long, and he's at the time when Brazil were on that kind of decent start for qualification, he turned up when he did. He was their most important player. So what I feel as though is going to be really interesting that if he does come back to the team again, he's fit, he's not he's not obviously with any like injury problems for now, but I'm sure Dorival is thinking of calling him up in these upcoming matches because
I
I think he
completely
can get someone like him to
agree.
do it.
Yes. Listen, the issue with Dorival that I always saw is not like tactically, they're decent. It just what I see is they lack a leader, and Dorival is not the guy. I completely agree with that because you look back to the Copa America and the way that he was trying to manage some of this stuff and what really sticks out to me is when they had that big team huddle and Dorival was like trying to get involved, but none of the players would move aside. Like they didn't even realize he was there. You're kidding me. Like your players don't realize that you're tapping on their back in the huddle. Hell no, I'm not having that. I would be furious. I'd say we forfeit right now. We running laps because these boys forgot who's in charge.
Yeah.
So Brazil needs a leader. And I think as good of a player as Neymar is, I think that the Brazilian team rallies around him as a leader more and they take cues off of him. So if they can get somebody to step up and take charge, like Neymar or like a new coach, I think that would fix probably 80% of their issues, because they don't want for talent. They don't want for reserves. They don't want for just ability on the footballing pitch. That Brazil team could play just about any system that you throw at them. They just have to have a leader. Right now it's like a bunch of mercenaries running around out there, and they need somebody to unify them under the badge, like Scaloni and Messi did for Argentina. Full stop. I think that's the only thing missing.
I agree.
I think it's easy for somebody to take the fall too.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the
Agreed.
players. I
No.
mean, what are they going to do? They're going to ban Vinicius from the Brazilian national team? Say it was his fault? Hell no. They're going to fire the old guy who the players clearly don't respect that much anyways, even though he's not a bad tactician.
What's crazy is that we've been talking about Brazil for 5 minutes, and that's the first time that you've said Vinicius' name. I just want to point that out. That's really indicative, I think. I have just a couple of stats for Brazil because this was one of my storylines as well. Old Brazil, and for the record, just before y'all eviscerate all of us in the comments, we're not saying that Brazil is bad, but they are not the Brazil of old. The Brazil of old, here are their World Cup stats. By the way, I went back to, I think, the entirety of the 2000s and even before. Brazil, every time, except for when they hosted the World Cup, which they got automatically qualified for, they were first in qualification. This is the first time since I have been capable of rational thought that Brazil has not been number one in World Cup qualification on the table. The Brazil of old, the World Cup, we all know that they have 5 World Cups, right? They've played 109 matches in the World Cup. They have 73 wins and 229 goals. That is 2.1 goals per game in the World Cup. Brazil is not playing like that in the World Cup.
Not World Cup qualification, the World Cup.
No, in the World Cup, in the most difficult footballing competition in the world. 2.1 goals per game. They're not playing like that. They're not playing like that. And you need a leader.
And they haven't for a while.
No.
I think the issue here is, as much as we want to obviously, value Brazil as this, country of really big producing talent, which they are, but I feel as if though perhaps for them, I'm not saying they're washed because they're still obviously a great country and they're going to go to the World Cup, but perhaps, like I said beforehand, maybe it's that intimidation factor that doesn't exist anymore. They look at other countries and, other countries are doing well in all of South America and all the world, really. So, you kind of look into that and you feel yourself, yeah, Brazil might be this name, the second favorite team of everyone, but, it's these results and these kind of performances. You think to yourself, okay, so what? It's Brazil. It's, it's just, it doesn't scare you as much as it should anymore. Maybe it is that. I mean, I don't know. It's just maybe, again, that scare factor is gone.
They seem vulnerable as of now. And I think throwing in a Neymar, somebody that's going to intimidate the other team, as well as lead their guys, could really
might change a little too. And that could be a factor just of how much Neymar means, I think, to Brazil, to the sport as well. So
yes, it's like in Troy when Achilles comes back. Well, they think it's Achilles coming back, and they charge the Trojan lines, and they find out it's his lover, and he dies. That's pretty much who Neymar is. Patroclus. Yes, Neymar is Achilles. Vinicius is Patroclus. He ain't the real deal. So they need the actual Achilles back to challenge Hector to a one-on-one duel. I guess Hector is, I don't know, Fede Valverde. I don't know who he is in the situation. It might be Julio Enciso if Paraguay keep balling out. Okay, Martin, why don't you drop the next storyline for us?
All right, I'm going for obviously Ecuador. So storyline Ecuador, we have a new coach. Yeah, we have a new coach. He's been here for about 6 months, and we've done some decent results. I think the only bad result was drawing 0-0 at home to Paraguay. Not giving any disrespect to Paraguay, but those types of games in Quito, Ecuador should be trying to find a goal, and we were doing nothing in attack. Basically, it was 0-0, boring. now with the 3 points that we won in Colombia, the last game in Barranquilla, that was a game changer because Ecuadorian fans were kind of iffy on Becasese, the Argentine uh, manager who's the coach of Ecuador. And with that win in Colombia, we haven't done that. If I'm not mistaken, it was 57 years ago.
Yeah, since the
Last time we won
60s.
in
Since the
Colombia. Yeah.
60s.
So it's and with 10 men, like Jack said earlier, Galindez, the goalkeeper, he saved a lot of shots, but at the end of the day, Colombia couldn't score. And I think that gives Ecuador as a country some extra boost, knowing that, hey, if they didn't take off 3 points in the start of the qualifiers, we would be 22 points, Argentina 25. And we're talking about one of the best finishes Ecuador could do ever in World Cup qualifiers. So the next game is here at home. It's to decide. It's not decided yet if it's Quito or Guayaquil, in altura, in altitude, or in sea level. But we play Venezuela. So I think that's one of those games that it's a must win 3 points. And with those 3 points, I think we're in obviously the top six of automatic qualifying. And I think that's it. The rest of the games would be trying to find players on form. For example, Felix Torres, one of my favorite center backs for Ecuador. But there's a new guy coming in, Joel Ordóñez, plays the same position, right center back. He plays over at Club Brugge. He's Belgium's most how do how would you say it? Most like wanted player with the biggest transfer fee like available.
Most
Um,
valuable.
Most valuable. So there's rumors he's going to Aston Villa in January, like these other things. But he's playing UEFA competition. I think this summer is where he jumps up to a big team. He's 21-year-old center back, doing great. So try him out. Try, for example, John Yaboa, who's balling at well, he's not balling at Venezia because they're in 19th out of 20 in Serie A. But for an Ecuadorian to be on in Serie A and play and start, it's really good for us. And Gonzalo Plata bringing up, he's coming back, man. Gonzalo Plata's back, so that's a good
Never
look.
thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, so I
He's on the
think
redemption path right now.
I think Ecuador this year is to find that starting 11 or find who's going to be the first sub, like just what we're going to do in the World Cup, and I think it's going to be good and fun to watch.
What place do you guys have to finish for it to be a successful campaign?
I would say top four. Top four, it would be awesome top three. But I think top four, now that six can qualify, it'd be great because we still have Colombia trying to get back. We're tied with points with Colombia, but we have two more goals. So either one could pass each other. And then Paraguay, if they keep up this form, they could jump up. Brazil, like I said, I think they're going to start winning games. Maybe Uruguay drops down. I mean, there's a lot of good teams. I think a top four finish is good.
I completely agree. A top four finish needs to be priority. Forget the even if you don't make top three, which is looking like you will, even if you don't make top three, top four, and finding that starting 11, getting them ready to play European, African, Asian competition. That's way more important than I think, stamping, hey, we were the best in some of the best in CONMEBOL here. That doesn't matter nearly as much as getting prepared for the World Cup because, dude, that is coming up before we know it. Like it is flying by the time.
It's literally in a year and 4 months. The World
That's
Cup.
insane. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Dude, I wonder if Ecuador finish fourth, let's say, what the opinion will be of many Ecuadorian fans. Because Connor and I touched on this in another episode. I don't think it's out on the channel yet, but I feel like the fan happiness and the performance of the Ecuadorian national team are not connected. And I think they're like more disconnected than any other fan base in the region, maybe even in the Americas. Because if you look at it on paper, purely on paper, of course, context matters, but just paper for a second, Ecuador lost on penalties to the champions Argentina at the Copa America, qualified for the last World Cup. They were a Koulibaly goal away from going through to the round of 16. And now you're currently in third place in World Cup qualification, best defense in the region. I don't even think it's close. If you would have asked Ecuadorians a decade ago how would you feel about these results? Everybody would have been ecstatic, and probably a national holiday would have been declared on the birthday of whoever the manager was. But instead, and maybe I'm in the Ecuador chamber too much, but instead, it feels like there's always this pessimism that's leaking out about Ecuador constantly. Like even when Felix Sanchez was doing relatively well results wise, it was this guy sucks. He's a tronco. He doesn't know what he's doing with the national team. Blah blah blah. Then he's out. Becasese came in. Defense kept cooking. You got that big win against Colombia, but it was still like he's making the same mistakes, or I don't really think he's using the personnel right. We don't know who the attack is yet. Do you think fourth place is going to be enough to satisfy an Ecuadorian fan base that clearly has sky high expectations? And I will just add, rightfully so, I believe.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be people who are going to say top four, not good enough. Maybe with the -3 that we started out with, it could help a little bit. But obviously, look, Ecuador is a country who have never won in a major title, Copa America, uh, let alone a World Cup, anything else. The only title in Ecuadorian football is in the U20s, where we won South American Championship and we came third in the 2019 World Cup. Literally, that's it. So this pessimistic vibe, it comes from generations, like my father, my grandfather. We're just not
Oh,
used to we're just not used to seeing Ecuador in the big stage. And man, maybe we can get to the semis. Maybe we can win this fight. Never. So now that we have players like Moises Caicedo, 145 million, Incapié, uh, William Pacho at PSG, and this is not just right now. This is about 4 years ago when we had Gustavo Alfaro. We had some good players coming up, and Gustavo Alfaro was doing great. So kind of like the vibes were coming up. We go to the World Cup. Come on, we got to get out of group stage and win that fourth game because we've never done that. Um, and to lose in the way we did to Senegal, and not just it's the goal minute last minute by Koulibaly, which sucks, but the way we came out the first half. I don't know if you guys remember that the game before we played Netherlands and tied 1-1, and Gonzalo Plata hit the post. We could have won that game.
you should have
And
beat them. Yeah.
so to with the game that we played there, and then to play the way we did against Senegal with like two center mids. There wasn't a defensive mid really. It was bad. And Senegal, who's a team who attacks from the wings, it was just bad from the start. And kind of like everyone in the country was like, okay, here's Ecuador again, like doing the same thing. So we sack Alfaro, and then what do? We sign Felix Sanchez, who literally was only at Barca Academy and didn't have any good career move. So he comes to Ecuador, he gets paid. It's obviously his best career move ever, but we're trying to play like a possession style in Ecuador and all of South America. That you have to play the way the country has played like since the 30s. You have to if Ecuador's a team that's
Sounds like
really
South American
physical,
infrastructure. Don't
yeah,
change it
for
since the
sure.
30s.
You can't teach players to play possession-based football if you're really fast on the wings and like to be physical. For example, Ecuador, Argentina is another example with Brazil. Like if you try to teach them the way that Ecuador or Paraguay play, they probably can't do it or won't succeed. So that happened. Felix Sanchez was out, and Becasese came in, and we've gotten a couple results. So it's like iffy the vibe. But after the Colombia game, if we can win against Venezuela the next game, I think maybe the vibe starts picking up. Obviously, a top four finish, some people won't be impressed, but I'd say those are the people with less ball knowledge. Okay, so
I
I think we
think
should
And
be
there
good.
are many.
Yeah,
I do think they do need a really big statement win as well. I think them trying to get the results against a Brazil or an Argentina that, I think even for, I don't want to go back to Paraguay, but I'm doing it anyway. But I feel like those kind of games are always the ones that perhaps really give a country that kind of clouts and whatnot, because, it's all good and to beat, the teams like a Bolivia, like a Chile, and, many other countries. But I feel like, as cruel as it sounds, those big results against those big teams really jump you up in terms of respect. And I think, countries need that. And then when it does come to those big tournaments, yeah, I think that kind of helps them feel more motivated and say, hey, we've done this, we've done that, that we can feel more motivated to take on the Europeans or the Africans or the Asian teams to be like, yeah, we can do this. So I think it is that as well. But I don't know, Martin. I mean, do you feel that maybe the expectations have just been too much, that maybe, some fans or even yourself or even us, we just need to be like, this is as good as they get, and we just need to appreciate it.
Well, talking about the golden generation that is these players that I've mentioned, basically every player I've mentioned besides the goalie and Ender Valencia, they're all 26 years old and under. So this is a team that could stay solid until 2030, even 2034. Because there's some players that are 20, 21 years old. So I think that's where the case comes, because there's players saying Hincapié. There's never been a player who won Bundesliga, Ecuadorian. Moises Caicedo, he captained Chelsea. Like, there's stuff that's for the first time happening now. So I think there is pressure from the fans or people saying like, hey, we should be better than the 2016 that came out of group stage and only lost 1-0 to England to a David Beckham free kick in the last minute. So that's kind of like the goal. We're trying to get to the top 8, which is so hard in the World Cup, but I think that's the expectation for Ecuador, for real.
Yeah. I think the biggest stigma that's weighing on Ecuador, especially based off of what you were saying there, like the expectations of the fans, going back to your dad and your grandfather. My dad and my grandfather both were alive for all 3 of Argentina's World Cup victories, right? There was a stretch between, I think, Batistuta's Copa America, where it was running like 20 plus years. I didn't witness Argentina winning a trophy my entire life until our first Copa America and these most recent World Cup, next Copa,
28
etc.
years, 28 years since
20,
that.
28 years. That stigma weighs on the fans a lot because I never understood that. I was like, Dad, back in 2014 and even 2018 when those World Cups came around and Argentina made it to the finals, I was like, why is it such a surprise that we're doing this to them? They've seen 2 World Cups, multiple Copa Americas. Why is it so shocking to them? But you have to take into account that's 28 years. That weighs a lot. But the difference between 2014 Argentina, well, maybe not 2014, but 2018 Argentina and 2022 Argentina is the fact that even if the fans didn't believe it could happen, even if the majority of the fans were like my dad and my grandpa, super pessimistic and very ojo con Paraguay, like we're scared and timid of us doing anything. We don't want to jinx it. What matters is that the guys believe they can do it. The 11 guys on the field and the coach need to believe. And listen, if this is the year that you guys can do that, if top 3 means that's what changes the mentality in the Ecuadorian el equipo Ecuadorian national team, Jesus, then that should be paramount over everything. I think you're one step away from being a truly world-class threatening team that nobody can take down from that peg. But that's a big step.
The issue that I do have, of course, and there is this fear, and I look at to like someone like Colombia, for example. They've been enjoying their success for quite some time. I say success in the sense that they're going to World Cups. They're, doing significantly well in competitions. They made it to the final of the last Copa America. But, I feel like even for them, and I'm sure all of you guys know Colombians, we all have our friends that are fully into soccer that like that. Maybe they feel as if though that hype where, okay, we have someone like James Rodriguez doing it at Real Madrid, Falcao, top goal scorer at Atleti and all of Europe, and all these great players playing across the leagues. But they didn't make that big jump towards silverware in that sense. And I think that might be my thing with Ecuador too, is that will that hinder them a bit that when the time comes for a big competition, I don't want to use a brutal word, but I think it's okay to use in this sense, that they choke and they feel like that pressure just gets too much to them, that be another World Cup or another Copa America, that if they don't do it, then the criticism just going to go sky high. And, we see that with so many different national teams that have had huge expectations to do something and they fall flat on their face.
100%. And I would like to jump in here real quick if I can. I think, Connor, the biggest reason that I would attribute to Argentina's success at the World Cup was the fact that they finally got the monkey off their back and won a Copa America. So, like, the curse was broken, right? If Paraguay's cursed, if Colombia's cursed, if Ecuador's cursed, if Argentina was cursed, I think every fan base is cursed if you've gone like 10 years without a trophy. You have to break the curse to get that belief.
Mhm.
Now, I think the other way that you could potentially break the curse is if you start accruing massive statement wins. I think, Roberto, you touched on something that's interesting because you said that Ecuador probably need a few more. And I kind of agree. But if you look at this current cycle and how they did last time, I think hands down Ecuador's best win last time, 6-1 Colombia, like match week 3 or whatever it was. Hands down. The rest of the cycle, they didn't really beat anybody that good. They beat up all the small teams, got draws against the good teams, or lost 1-0. In this cycle, we got 6 games left to go. They've beaten Uruguay and they've beaten Colombia at the Barranquilla. Like, those are big, big wins. You lose on a free kick against Argentina, Messi, 80th minute, whatever it was. Now I think you got one game against Argentina left, a game against Brazil left, both at home, I want to say. If they can walk away with one more big win, one more big KO, or Jesus, even 2, hopefully that is enough social proof for both the fans and the team to where they go into the World Cup and they're like, all right, man, we just ran the table against South America's best. We're not afraid of, South Korea. We're not afraid of the United States. We don't care that it's Portugal because we've been beating, the top dogs down here in the South. I feel like I kind of agree and disagree at the same time, Roberto, because I think they have the social proof, but I agree that one more, of course, would always be better.
Well, I think they have to use the example of Paraguay. It's like, if they can do it, and I'm not obviously disregarding Paraguay and making them feel little than Ecuador in that sense, but they see that and you're like, they can do that. Why can't we? With probably better talent on paper, and of course the weather factor in that as well, the altitude or whatnot. So in a way, it's an even better opportunity for them to get it. Both wins, I'd say.
I would love that. Go Martin. Go Martin.
Sorry, Connor. I was just gonna say the storyline for the Brazil Argentina games at home that Ecuador have to play to finish the cycle. Last cycle, those 2 games, we played Brazil in Quito and we drew 1-1. And I remember there was a controversial red card with Alisson and Ener Valencia, and Alisson came back. They got mistaken with the red card. It was bad, but it was 1-1. And then Argentina, we played in sea level in Guayaquil, and we drew as well. Now, and then we went to World Cup and all this thing with Netherlands, Senegal. Now, I think a win with either of the 2, Brazil or Argentina, is a big statement, like Jack said, but also it one-ups the cycle previously.
Yeah, I have one mini storyline for Ecuador that I know we've been talking about these guys for a while, but we also touched on like the importance of winning silverware, which we'll see if that comes back to bite Colombia in the ass. The fact that they couldn't get the last Copa America, they have slid since the tournament. You got to take your chances when they're there. But with Ecuador, I want to see if they can finish this qualification cycle with less than 10 goals conceded. Because to me, that would be massive. 6 games to go. They can concede 6 more goals. What do you guys think? Do they hit it?
Yeah, they hit it.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a crazy stat.
I think they're.
That's
I think the performances have shown that they can do it, and I think the way that they play and the style that, like I said, just can make them play can allow them to get that, and it's not impossible. So yeah, I think they could do it.
Okay,
they
how about
could
this?
do it. I really do. I want to say it's still not as important as just finishing top 4 and figuring out. I'll tell you right now, if you concede 6 or 7 more goals, but you get your automatic qualification, you get the important stuff out of the way, top 4, top 5, whatever. You finish that and you concede 7 goals, and you lose that record or whatever, but you score 1.5 goals a game instead of, what is it? The lesser now, what is it, like 0.7? Am I just totally extrapolating here? If you start scoring 1.5 goals a game, or you get a couple results where it's 2-3 against good defenses, I think that's way better than maintaining that defensive record, because we know you can do that. We know you can do that. Put that on the back burner, save it. That's your trap card. Let everybody forget how good your defense is so that when you play a Holland, you get, oh my God, if you get put in the same group as Holland, the World Cup, and you punch him in the mouth with that crazy defense again, you come away with a 1-0 or a 2-1 or something. I think that sends a much stronger message to your boys and the fans.
How about this then? I'll do you one better. Does Ecuador finish with the best defensive record of any team ever in the history of CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying?
How much is it?
You guys know
say,
the fewest goals conceded.
No.
It was actually last cycle, Brazil, 5 goals they conceded.
My goodness.
5 effing goals, bro.
No, in that case, I don't think so. I mean, for them to not concede
They got
one,
6
not
games,
concede.
1 goal, bro.
I mean, Paraguay have gone a long way without conceding goals. So again, more motivation for Ecuador in that sense. So could be, but I don't know, man. That might be a bit too much, especially who they got next in their games too. So it's like, maybe not.
Martin, would you take the defensive record or beating both Brazil and Argentina at home? What would you take?
Come on,
dude. I would concede 20 goals to Venezuela if I can beat Brazil or Argentina.
Let's go. Absolutely.
See, that's how you know this man knows ball. That's how you know.
Nah, see,
He's
bro,
an
I'm a
athlete right here.
Simeone disciple, bro. Give me the defensive record, but I respect your answer 100%. Dude, can I reach y'all?
Defensive record and
real
no
quick?
trophies.
I need to. Hey, we got plenty of trophies, including La Liga loading soon. Let me give you guys Ecuador's goals conceded since we adopted the 10-man cycle, and then we'll move on because it's crazy. So as things stand, Ecuador have conceded 6. 2022, 19 goals. 2018, 29 goals. 2014, 16. 2010, back up to 26. 2006, Ecuador conceded 19. 2022, they conceded 20. 1998, 21. They have never conceded in the single digits in a campaign. I'm with you guys. I think they get it. That's crazy. Like, that's how good this team is right now. So, all right, well, God, if you're Ecuadorian and you're listening to this podcast, you have not subscribed and dropped a like after we just talked for 20 minutes about your national team, you a hater. Connor, why don't you bring us into the next storyline here?
All right, guys. Next storyline. Listen, we've gone through Paraguay. We went through Ecuador. We talked briefly about Argentina. So I'm going to move on to a team that we haven't really discussed in depth. I want to talk about Bielsa and what he looks like going into 2025. All right. Because I was doing some research. You know, this was one of my ones that I didn't know if it was going to expand into a real topic, you know, or a real storyline here. Like, what can you say about that? But I remember, and I want to frame this, when he was signed to Uruguay and to Leeds for that matter, right? When he started performing with Leeds and then, you know, left or whatever and came to Uruguay, that was blockbuster. It felt like maybe 1 degree under when Ronaldo went to Juventus. Like, it was huge. I could not stop seeing news about that. And I don't know if it's my algorithm or whatever, but it was insane. Now, I got a bit of a reality check with that whenever Jack and I unpacked that on the pod, and Jack was like, yeah, but this guy really hasn't won anything. Like, I don't know how great of a signing this is going to be. Now, as it stands, since he's been with Uruguay, he has 13 wins, 7 draws, and 4 losses. That's a damn good record. Now, if you want to talk about how he's been doing recently, he still has no trophy. He's got a bronze medal finish in pretty catastrophic fashion, just about as ugly as you can win a bronze medal. They did it
correct
in the Copa America. Since then, I'm looking at every result after Copa America, including a friendly against Guatemala. They have scored 5 goals in the last 7 games. 3 of those goals came against Colombia. Really good. They scored 1 goal in a draw against Brazil and 1 against Guatemala. They have 1 loss, 1 win, and 5 draws since the Copa America. And for a team that we were claiming was high-flying offense, absolute massive firepower, insane. I know that they're missing some key players, but 5 draws in that time and still no silverware. and Bielsa's contract ends December 31st, 2025. This man could leave Uruguay with no trophies won. What does that look like? What does that say about the legacy? Do we call this man a fraud? What does that look like?
Well, the story that's really popular right now in Uruguay is what Luis Suarez said about Bielsa. He's kind of dividing the players with the coach, and then we saw the results in the last 2 games that Uruguay were not that good. I think it would surprise me. I think that they were gonna sack Bielsa before 2024 ended, and he's still in, obviously. So this year is crucial. I think there's some kind of division between the players, but he needs to pick it up and get like the leaders, Valverde, and a couple other guys to just make it a core group. But I think instead of talent or tactics, it's more like, do I want to play for this guy or not? And that's not good.
Okay, theory time. Bielsa gets sacked before the World Cup starts. How does that affect the legacy? Well, I think you have to look back and say clearly the signing was a failure. Even in terms of just like personnel for Uruguay, can you say that Bielsa unearthed a couple Uruguayan gems, or he's revolutionized how certain people play in the team? I mean, I don't know. Is the answer yes? I can't think of any that have just popped off under Bielsa. I mean, he unlocked Darwin in the first 10 games.
He also failed to qualify for the Olympics. He was the coach of the Olympic team to qualify for Paris.
Ooh, man, I forgot that one.
And this is a guy that won the gold medal with Argentina 20 years ago. So it's like, this is something that you know well, and yet you failed at the first hurdle.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. And
the parallel that I wanted to draw here is that, yes, it is unacceptable. And especially with the magnitude and the weight that his legacy carries, you know, all the articles that talk about how him and Pep Guardiola have like monthly calls where they discuss tactics and he's Guardiola's mentor and all this stuff. I was like, you have to be like a legendary coach for that. Well, I just want to put something in perspective for you. Hervé Renard has 2 Africa Cup of Nations, 1 African Nations Championship. Is he a better coach than Bielsa?
On the international stage? I mean,
silverware, yeah, but you also have to realize, I'm not trying to defend Bielsa in this sense, but you also have to realize that maybe perhaps why Guardiola likes him is not because of the silverware that he wants, but is the way that he plays his game. Like a lot of the coaches, like, you know, Jack, your team, Atleti, Simeone's definitely been inspired, even though they don't play the same way. He's definitely taken a lot from him, and look at everything he's won. Do you say Simeone's better than Bielsa? I don't know.
No, and this goes back to the whole, well, 1, yes, I absolutely would. And 2, it goes back to the how do you assess coaches, right? How much does silverware matter? And I think in Bielsa, he wouldn't have been a failure if he made the Copa America final and they lost. I don't think anyone would have been like, wow, massive L appointed Bielsa. Oh my God, they lost Argentina in the finals. This guy sucks. That's an understandable loss. But it's the fact that we have not seen a good Uruguayan performance, I shit you not, since they beat Panama 3-1 in the first game. That's the last time we've seen a good Uruguay team play. They were terrible against Colombia. I mean, the Brazil game was a disaster for both sides. They got ran off the park by Canada and bailed out by Luis Suarez. That's why he's a failure, because he has not made the team better. Not that he should have won the Copa America. He's not expected to win the World Cup. You're expected to make the team good. Uruguay's stacked, bro. You kidding me?
I don't know.
You can't be out there squeaking by in games.
Yeah, I mean, as well as, you know, we talk about the curses as well. I mean, Uruguay have this curse as well that they haven't won since 2011, the Copa America, but also the World Cup since 1950. So that hangs on, that pressure as well for whoever comes in as Uruguay coach.
Not only have they not won the Copa America, they've been objectively poor, right? They have not had Copa America success since 2011, including, I think, 3 tournaments that they have not made it out of the group stage.
Yep,
they haven't seen a semifinals. Sure. I don't even know if they won a quarterfinal. No, they haven't won a quarterfinals game since they won the whole thing. So
No,
as
they won.
far
They
as
beat Brazil
him,
in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but that was in on penalties, but in like 90 minutes, I think.
right? I'm sorry. I need to establish before the Bielsa era. Bielsa
Okay.
has brought them more
Okay.
success than they've seen since they won the Copa America, but it's not enough. It's not enough for the signing that his name merits. And frankly, you can find other coaches that can bring Uruguay to this success. So I think 2025 is the year that I'm comfortable stamping something on his legacy and saying, are you successful or are you not? If you can get them, if Bielsa can get them into winning form right before the his contract runs out and they end up re-signing him, he brings them into the World Cup comfortably. He's got a long road ahead of him, but I think if he does that, he brings them into the World Cup in winning form, I think that I would validate his signing. But he's
And
got to do that.
another negative is the player that is Fede Valverde for Real Madrid. And he has just not clicked in one Uruguay game, I think, this entire cycle. Great player, but I think they just need to build a team around him, man. He's one of the best players in South America, and I think that's another reason why the players are the fans are pissed. Bielsa might get sacked, all this stuff.
Yeah, the story's still being written. Obviously, like a
Right.
good World Cup run, everybody forgets the 0-0 scraping away at Venezuela, barely surviving. You know, they forget doing nothing against Paraguay at home, 0-0. They forget 4 games in a row without a goal or whatever it was. They make the quarterfinals at the World Cup. I think enough people say, okay, he got us to the World Cup. We won a knockout game, then we went out. Can't call that a massive failure. Some will, but at least it's like a modicum of protection. But they get bounced in the group at the World Cup, or they go out in the round of 16 to like goddamn Iraq. Oof.
Yeah, that kills his legacy.
mean,
that kills his legacy.
I'm done. I'm already kind of done. I think he's extremely overrated, but I'm a hater. So
I know Connor is really good in this history as well, but look at 2002 with what he did with Argentina. That tanks his legacy a lot. As much as he's been influential for the game, and he did what he did at Leeds, at Chile, Bilbao, whatever. He also got probably the best Argentina team, besides the one that won the World Cup, knocked out of the group stage.
Hey, let's be completely transparent. It's better than this Argentina team. This Argentina team has incredible results, but I think we talked about how good they play as a system, right? Let's talk about the world-class players that they had on there. It's not the whole starting 11. We're not talking about Spain, or Germany. We're not talking about one of the best teams of all time. This isn't even the best, Argentina that we've seen in the last 10 years. I would argue that, you could make arguments for the majority of the 2014 squad being better than this 2022 squad, at least in caliber of individual players. You could.
See, I wouldn't. But you can make the argument. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different video there. So
That's a whole different video. Hit subscribe. We'll do that. We'll do that in a separate time.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that I'm left wanting to see with Bielsa, and I am officially declaring that my storyline to watch is how Uruguay does. I want to stamp it and be done with it. I want to say good, bad, let's move on.
So you're saying Bielsa at Uruguay is like, it's like the new Dune series. It's like we saw Dune 1, looked pretty good, but we were like, we got to wait until part 2 comes out to really decide if this was a good remake or not.
I don't know. I really liked the first movie. I was dying to see the rest of it. I'd compare this Dune movie to Ecuador. You've laid the foundations, and I'm really stoked to see what you do, when you're in the shit. That's what I want.
So what was better? Comment down below. Dune Part 1 or Uruguay's performance under Bielsa at the Copa America? Which one did you enjoy more?
My God, I'm going Dune Part 1. I'd like Willy Wonka better than Uruguay's performance.
I think Dune sweeps. Dune Part 1 might sweep, dude. I do want to keep us here because this is the last storyline that I have, and it's tied in with Bielsa. So we're talking about Uruguay. Let's kind of zoom out. How many coaches are sacked before the next World Cup in CONMEBOL? Because I think there's several that are up, up for the sacking. Why don't we go one by one? Roberto, we'll start with you. Who do you think is the most likely coach to be fired before the next Mundial?
Oh man. I mean, I'll give you an obvious one because I think this will happen, and I'm gonna give you one that I feel if results don't go the way that they want, and especially if they don't make the World Cup, then yeah, he's going in there. I think the first one has to be Gareca at Chile. I haven't seen anything. Okay, yeah, they got the win against Venezuela last time round, but they've been really poor under Gareca. Really, rightly so.
Terrible.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, they got a positive result. They lost against France, which again, it was a friendly, but they were poor in the Copa America. They've been poor in this kind of qualifications, but they lost to Bolivia at home. Bolivia have never won away from home, so that's one thing. We're talking about legacies. That's one on Gareca's right there. The fact that you're the first ever manager to lose to Bolivia at home, that's one for you. So I look at Chile's next game. They got Paraguay and then they got Ecuador. They don't get any results from any of those games. I think Gareca's done. Gareca's done there. So I think that's my obvious pick as the next manager to be sacked. One manager, and we haven't mentioned them at all as of yet, and I wanted to really shout them out. And I really hope that I'm wrong in this one. But I'm looking at Fernando Batista, Venezuela. I'm really concerned about them because
That's mine.
That is someone that I would have said someone like Oscar Villegas at Bolivia, but again, they've been doing as much as they could. We have to wait and see what happens to them. But I think for Venezuela, just because of the fine start that they had, the Copa America that they did, they almost beat Canada. They were almost a semifinalist. And then this kind of really poor form where they really dropped off and now they're out of a qualification spot. I look at these next games, really, they got Ecuador at home. Sorry, they got to go to Ecuador. Then they got to host Peru. And then they got to take on Bolivia. If they don't get any results from any of those games, I think Batista's done because I don't see how they're going to catch up. And I think that for Venezuela, as much as they want to feel, mano tengo fe, that we can still go for the World Cup for the first time. I think that's just going to be like, nope, it's over. I think, the FA have to decide that as much as Batista's kind of changed this Venezuela side, you're going to have to go with the results to be like, sorry, dude, you're done here.
What about you, Martin?
Dude, the Venezuela is a great shout because shout out Jordan Floret, my friend. He follows Venezuelan football. He said basically they're done. They're done. And in the summer, they looked so good against Canada. It was a great game. And as an Ecuadorian, nothing to do with Venezuela, but even rooting for them against Canada, they played good football. These last 6 games or 4 games, they have just completely lost identity. I don't know what happened. It's tough. And like the next games that they have, for example, they play Ecuador at home the very next game. And I was saying that it's a must win for Ecuador. They lose that game, then which was the next game, Roberto, that they have to play?
Play Peru at home.
Okay, that they have to win that game.
They have to.
They
Have to.
And
So
then,
that's
and
a
then they
bully
draw
Peru
you
said
down.
that's going to go for their third manager in this entire process. So, yeah,
Wow.
I think you've got the worst Peru side in a long time.
So I think Venezuela's done because with the form that Paraguay's in, and dude, I like Bolivia too. It's gonna be interesting who's gonna get that 7th spot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Dorival from Brazil could possibly leave, but it's politics. You know how it is in Brazil. We don't know.
All right, Connor. What about you?
Yeah, I think the real answer is Venezuela. That was a banger, awesome. I think I think Dorival has a very distinct shout. I think it completely depends on if and when Neymar is integrated and if they find success there. Because listen, if he's just a custodian for them and decides the tactics, and Neymar's the actual figurehead there, fantastic. I genuinely think that that's how Scaloni started off. And then all of a sudden they were like, all right, no, we trust this guy, you know? I don't think Dorival is capable of that sort of ascension. But if he's just a custodian and Brazil starts doing well, okay, I think there's an argument for him staying. Venezuela, I think that he could stay because you've got Peru, Bolivia, and then I don't know. Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia at the end there. I don't know. There's a world in which he stays, but I really want to emphasize how much pressure is on Bielsa right now. Not only do I think he could not be re-signed, but if he loses 2 more games, or if he draws 2 more games, loses 1, wins 1, I think you start looking for the exit, you know? You lock in, a win, maybe 2 wins. Not even. You get 1 win, you get that automatic qualification, then you just start coasting. Like, cool. We're going to get this guy out. We're going to get somebody in here that can bring us in to the World Cup in good form because this is too wishy-washy now. Maybe keep him so you don't stir the pot, get 1 more win, and then la puerta. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. Bring her Fernard in here. Let's see what Frenchie can do.
Do you guys think Bielsa or Gareca is more likely to be sacked?
Gareca,
100%.
Yeah, Gareca.
You don't think because he just signed and it's already done and he's super expensive? Like Chile don't have hope. Uruguay have hope and aspirations and dreams.
Yeah, but if you qualify for the World Cup, what are you going to do? You're going to sack the coach? Like, you can't do that. You could, but it doesn't feel right.
I feel like you could. I feel like sometimes, even if a team's performing well, you get rid of the manager. It's the right thing to do. God, what team just did this recently? Help me out. I can't remember at the moment, but somebody was doing well. What national team was it? I can't remember. But if the federation believes we're underperforming and we could do more without Bielsa, why not pull the trigger?
Yeah, I agree with Jack.
Was not a prediction.
Uruguay?
But...
Was it Uruguay right before Bielsa?
No, Alonso was mid.
Alonso was there. I mean, the famous one was it was Spain when they sacked Lopetegui and they got Fernando Hierro like 1 day before the 2018 World Cup. That's just like that's one that comes right at the top of my head, but I don't know who else Jack you've been thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Barcelona, Xavi wasn't like abysmal.
We'll check back in. Follow me on Twitter. I can't remember right now. my head's too much in the CONMEBOL sand right now. But okay, so they were all going Batista number 1. Dorival, I think, is a great pick. I have a number 2, and I did have Gareca 3. I have Gareca under Dorival just because I feel like his contract is mad expensive, and Chile might say, "F it, we don't have a shot." So we're just gonna ride it out here, and he'll probably walk away after the contract expires and whatever that is. But yeah, you guys let us know in the comments who you think. If you guys have one more, let's speed run these next 3 if we can. If we can finish in like 13 minutes, 15 minutes, you think we can do that? 5 minutes each?
I want Bolivia to qualify to the World Cup. That's it.
Do you think they will?
Dude, I think they will. They just have if they lose 6-0 like they've done away a few times. But if they can get results at home like they have been doing, dude, it could happen and it'd be awesome. I would love for them to get that 7th spot. Just for the people in Europe, the North America, Asian, a team like Bolivia that always gets bullied to maybe get a win in a group stage in the World Cup, that'd be awesome.
The scenes.
Yeah.
If Bolivia win a group stage game.
Or like they go up against Mexico and win or something. That'd be crazy.
Why you gotta use Mexico as the example?
Why not?
It's you know the countries are out there, Mark.
Jesus.
There's a reason why it's El Tree for a reason.
Hey, we got more trophies than you, bro. Settle down over there.
God, I love this podcast.
No, this also we did this tension from the beginning. I'm surprised it took this long. Martin hates Mexico, bro. It's crazy. I show nothing but love for Ecuador. He just shits on my team 24/7, man. It's crazy.
Mexico's cool.
Bro,
Bolivia.
Oh, you don't think that, bro?
They're fans.
The fans. Okay.
They expect something else.
Really
do we all think Bolivia will qualify?
No.
Oh no.
It's hard.
Okay, this is again. I have to look at the way the qualifying process is because one thing is to make that 7th spot,
Yeah.
but they still got to go through that playoff, man. What they got to play some teams from Asia, Africa. I don't know how it works because again, qualification hasn't really been full in force in the other continents. But Jack, you follow the Asian teams, you follow the other continents. Who's to say that they can't choke it in one of the games over there, be it Bolivia or Venezuela? I think Venezuela on paper should, but again, you don't know. I mean, it would be fantastic, especially politically and everything that's been going on. And of course, the first ever World Cup happening for them. I mean, that's going to be a huge deal for them. So, as much as Venezuela might have that pessimism now, I think they could still make that 7th spot. I don't know if they'll make. Again, the whole thing is like we still got a way they have to face. That's the fear. Well, everyone's saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
7 places are going to qualify," but you don't know that. Still don't know that.
They do have one of the most feasible, like one of the easiest qualification schedules remaining. They play Peru, Chile, Venezuela, and then they also have Uruguay, Brazil, and Colombia. Now they do play Uruguay and Brazil at home. So, dude, if they take 3 points away, maybe super optimistically, you get 6 points away against Peru and Chile. Or no, sorry, Chile's at home.
That's
3
tough.
points guaranteed from Chile for me. But if you beat Peru away and then you hold the
Wow.
other guys to a draw, that's 8 more points, baby. You might move into 6.
Or you shock Uruguay at home. It's not impossible.
Will you shock Uruguay? No, it's not impossible.
Not impossible.
If anything, that's the game to do it. That's the
Yeah.
game to do it right there. Then you don't got to worry about Brazil at the end.
Bielsa's last game.
Yeah, that's
It's Bolivia away.
In charge.
it would be literally.
The stars are
It's
aligning.
written in the stars. Oh my god. Yeah, I'll say that if Bolivia makes the Intercontinental playoff, I don't think they qualify. If Venezuela makes the Intercontinental, now we're talking because they're just way better suited. They come up against like a DR Congo or I mean a Tunisia even would be really tough for Bolivia to beat. Asia's most likely going to be like it's probably going to be Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia maybe or Jordan.
Oh,
I think both teams stomp Bolivia. I really
That's
do.
Hervé Renard all the way back.
That's Hervé Renard.
You're
Yeah,
titling this to Hervé Renard.
He's out here
podcast.
ending South American careers.
Yeah.
Watch it be like
Hervé
some
Renard's
random
impact on CONMEBOL.
Watch it be like some random Oceania team as well. Like I don't even know like who was in the spotlight. I don't know, like Tahiti or something, like ruining their chances.
I would back Bolivia on pens if they played Tahiti. I do think they would squeak it by on that one. Yeah, that's a fascinating thing to watch. Roberto, you got one more final one for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, really going into this whole process as well is just, I don't want to circle back to Paraguay, but again, I will. I just really want to see, I'm going to be fortunate enough to go to the game against Chile in March, and I'm really happy for that. But I think as well, it's going to be really nice to see a lot of these countries that do go to North America and just see all the fans there. Like, we've been accustomed to it for so long. I'm sure all of us have heard stories about 94 and, all the other tournaments that happened here. But I just think, this whole process has been such a fun one to watch. And I think if you are one of the lucky 6 or 7 countries that go, then you're going to be in for a really good treat at the World Cup. Like just being with your own people and whatnot. I think it's going to be really fun. But, as much as I still want to be optimistic with Paraguay, and I will be, I'm just looking forward to that. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to qualify now, but if it does come to that, then all eyes are really into 2026. I'm just focusing on that, and I think a lot of people feel that way too.
I think they got it too. I really do. I would be stunned if Paraguay did not qualify. We'd have an emergency pod. Like, all right, what the hell happened? What went wrong? But you can let Roberto talk for 45 minutes.
Oh my god, he's gonna be more than that. That's for sure. At that point, it's definitely not 45 hours at that point.
Connor, why don't you bring us in here? Last storyline to watch, if you got one. If you don't,
my last storyline here is it's kind of it's like a half storyline because I don't know, 2025, we might not find out for 30 years. Do you think that CONMEBOL will accept responsibility for the Copa America and how disastrous that infrastructure was? Or do you think that they're going to pin it off on CONCACAF until 2026?
Yeah, it's gonna be they're gonna bicker for the entire
They're gonna
end
pass
of
the
that.
buck.
That's for sure. No, there's not gonna be no winner.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a
We'll
it's gonna
be
stalemate.
sitting in purgatory. Yeah. The
It's
only
stalemate.
thing that'll be telling is 2026 when it actually rolls around, if the infrastructure's there, if it's all set up.
Yeah, but they got help from FIFA there in that sense, so that might
That's
give
very
them
true.
the advantage in that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
And if something happens, CONCACAF will point at FIFA and say, this is
Yeah.
their tournament. It's their security
that.
issue. Nobody wants to say, yeah, I'm liable for the millions in damages that occurred at a stadium break-in or whatever it is. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
yeah,
insane.
get Brazil, Portugal, and Boston and see how that works out, or get like one of these like big, again, I'm not thinking out loud, but like if you get like two countries that maybe are really not getting along well, and they get in a group, yeah, I feel for that security of whatever city that goes. Like imagine like Kansas City,
Brent.
like the Kansas City police having to get like. I'm just thinking out loud here, like just give me two countries that don't like each other, and
France,
France,
Nigeria.
England.
yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
I mean that's
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be insane. Italy, England, and like Philly.
That would be sick. Or like, bro, I'm thinking something like even hotter than that, dude. We could
no, you
Iran,
just think of like the
like
hottest
Saudi
one.
Arabia.
I didn't want to mention those, but yeah.
That's gonna be crazy, dude. That's gonna be crazy. What's the hottest fixture that could involve a CONMEBOL team? We'll end the pod there.
In the World Cup?
in the
Or,
World Cup. Argentina, Netherlands.
oh, yeah.
That's like-
That's a great one. That's a
Argentina,
great one.
Baby.
God,
Baby,
that's a
come
banger.
on.
I think that's the
I'd-
best one, Roberto.
I'd be dipping into the savings account for that one.
Mhm.
Brazil, Germany, maybe.
Brazil, Germany.
No, I
That
feel like
would be
those fans are too respectful, They're too optimistic. The Germans would be like, yeah, well played. Yeah, very good.
7-1.
Yeah, but the
Seven
Dutch are as well in some sense. The Dutch fans
Yeah.
are they're respectful too. So
Yeah,
that's
but the
thing.
Argentines were such douchebags in the last game that there's
Thank
definitely
you.
animosity there.
I think
Like, they definitely hate them.
it would be very
think-
funny to see
I think
another.
we played a hard, fair game.
I mean, Argentina, Nigeria for like the
Who does-
umpteenth time. That's another one.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that'd be
Yeah.
cool. Let's just run it back again. Martin, who does Ecuador hate
Yeah, I don't know.
in the rest of the
Mexico,
world?
Clearly Mexico.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Dude,
Mexico,
if
literally.
we got
Literally, like, because it's not like we've had this crazy rivalries in World Cups or anything. Like,
that's a good one.
yeah, I'd say Mexico straight up.
Mexico Ecuador group stage. I would be pretty nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not feeling good about that game.
If that happens, they would do it on the West Coast, but they should do like play that in like Kansas, bro. It'd be sick.
In MetLife, do it all the Ecuadorians there.
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
New
yeah.
Jersey.
Hella Ecuadorians up there, man.
Yo,
That would be
there are
fire.
a ton. I see those jerseys more often than I see any other jerseys.
That's
Swear.
crazy.
Swear. I probably see them as often as I see like Barcelona jerseys.
What I saw that's cool, a club team, Liga de Quito. I see they have like a fan base in Queens, Bronx. They have like a, how do you say it? It's like
Like a fan
Fif-
club.
Fan club.
yeah, like
supporters
about
group.
50 of them. Like it's crazy.
Supporters group. Yeah.
Yeah,
Supporters group.
supporters
Better.
group. Yeah.
That goes hard. Y'all get up here. Let's go watch a game.
Dude, I have family in Queens. I'll go there one day. We'll link.
Yeah, I'll
Vamos.
fly up.
I'm in Connecticut. I'm nearby, so come
Yeah.
try to do as
Yeah,
well.
Roberto's not that far.
Hey,
Yeah,
y'all
Martin and I are
pull
going to be in the
Take the
same
train. Take the train.
same red eye flight to
Oh,
LaGuardia.
we'll definitely do something in the future.
First class that Martin will pay for. Surely.
Okay, well,
That sounds good.
no, Deadball TV is paying for it.
It's a tax write-off.
Genuinely.
Oh, I'm milking that if that happens. But yeah, guys, I think we should end the podcast there. We covered, I think, a ton of really, really cool stuff involving CONMEBOL. It's a lot bigger than just who qualifies, who doesn't. There's all types of little plot lines in the background. It's like Game of Thrones out here. Okay, we're bouncing around from scene to scene, giving you guys the details on everything. If there's anything that we somehow missed, let us know down below in the comments. What storyline are you paying the most attention to in particular? Also, let us know. If you enjoyed and you're listening on streaming platforms, please give the podcast a 5-star rating, drop a like in the video, hit subscribe for more CONMEBOL content, and finally, make sure to follow our guests on social media. Once again, everything will be in the description of this video. We appreciate you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you on the next one.